This is Dolynny TV, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers Discussion here on the channel. Of course, yesterday I kind of missed the boat, didn't I, on the news, but it came down at a weird time. I was trying to make supper and all that, so let's not go on too long with the excuses. The Oilers General Manager search is coming to a little bit of a head here. Obviously, the one big key moving factor in that whole kind of thing for us yesterday was the Darren Dreger tweet, which, let me find it, right in between the St. Louis Blues and Winnipeg Jets game in which the Blues eliminated the Jets. Well, guess what? It was Oilers boss Bob Nicholson into second interviews with GM candidates. Belief is he may do a third with top guys and is hoping to hire his man around May 1st. Now, this is where it gets interesting because you go over to the Edmonton Journal's take on things by Kurt Levins, and it gets really fun here because this is where it gets interesting. You think about Mark Hunter as one of the names getting that second interview, but you also have to ask yourself, why May 1st? And the May 1st deadline is kind of a good one to have because you have 9 days from now, obviously, and you have the man in place prior to the draft and busy pre-UFA season trading window, which is what Kurt Levins noted in his thing. The problem, though, is, as mentioned off the top, is you're in the GM search, and one of the names I think that everybody can float, and even Kurt Levins floated it out in his article as well, is the fact that Kelly McCrimmon is a no-brainer to be on that list, obviously. Now, the question is, are you going to get a talk to Kelly McCrimmon before May 1st? I don't think you are, because obviously Vegas in the playoffs right now, and they're doing exceptionally well. Last time I checked out, they lead the series 3-2. They play again today at 5 p.m. against the San Jose Sharks. So ask yourself this, if you're an Oilers fan: are we going to get to actually interview the candidates, the full field that we want to, before May 1st? And I don't think you're going to, because I have a strong feeling if Vegas doesn't take this tonight, they take it in Game 7. That's just don't cheer against Vegas, because we've all been proven wrong multiple times before kind of mentality. So that's where I take caution. And sorry, my cats are absolutely killing each other on my bed, so pardon me. But that's where I come up with this video idea right here, is the caution around that May 1st deadline. Earlier I mentioned you really need no timeline for this. Honestly, you don't, because you've got a capable man who's done some good moves, who has a great track record with our minor league system and drafting and developing in Keith Gretzky. And that's really, if you can get a man in place by May 30th, you're fine. That's the thing. You're fine if you've got a man in place by May 30th. And that's also me really trying to make sure Bob Nicholson gets it right. Because if we're forcing it through May 1st without interviewing Kelly McCrimmon, I really don't think we've gotten it right. Just my opinion. And so, for the Oilers, the danger would be getting it wrong again, and you really take issue with that if you're an Oilers fan, because after Peter Chiarelli, and then you get a little sigh of relief with Keith Gretzky making some decent moves and making things work a little bit better, but realistically they didn't work any better than, you know what I mean? Like, things were just literally a flat line since Ken Hitchcock was hired, pretty much. And you look at the names that are mentioned, right? Mark Hunter, a great name, great resume in Toronto. The one thing that he is credited with is Mitch Marner's drafting for the Maple Leafs. We all know how well that's turned out. But the thing is, right now, what we're looking for is a guy who can build a pro roster out of scraps. That's essentially what we have to have happen this offseason if we want to have a season in which we compete. And in this market, that's what we want every single year. So that's why I am so insistent on making sure, if this Oilers interview process is going to be done properly, we have to make sure Kelly McCrimmon's interviewed. We have to make sure, as Bob Nicholson said, no stone is left unturned, or something along those lines. I'm sure I've heard that line over his mouth. But we have to make sure that it's done right, because if you're going to get somebody who's a great amateur guy to rebuild a roster, well, that's not going to work the way we want to, or it might. Now, that's the thing. I can sit here and say we need a pro guy, and then all of a sudden everyone's going to comment Ken Holland. Well, I honestly don't think Ken Holland's the guy. You see what he did with Detroit, right? As soon as Detroit was done from being a competitor for the Stanley Cup year in, year out, he's pretty much moved on and upwards into the organization and gone. But why would he want to come to Edmonton when we're not close to competing under the general fan consensus, right? So you look at Mark Hunter or Kelly McCrimmon. Those are the two big names, the big names that have been here all along. Obviously, great names to have, but Kelly McCrimmon's got to be my number one pro guy, and Mark Hunter's got to be the number one amateur guy. And maybe the amateur guy, like I was getting to there, isn't the bad point, because he's an easy guy to, well, Benson, Marudi, Jones, Bear, Starrett, Legason, Day. Guys, there are in McLeod, Samorukov, Person, Hockey. There's a ton of guys. There are absolutely a ton of guys that the Edmonton Oilers organization could use, plug into the organization's main NHL roster next year, and do phenomenal things with. Don't get me wrong, the Edmonton Oilers have a great core of young guys that could actually fill a lot of the holes. But again, that gets back to my point, and my point I'm arguing with myself here is amateur guy over pro guy. Yeah, sure, okay, great, good job. You get 5 amateur rookies in the lineup to start the year. We've done that a million times before. It doesn't work out. Why will it work out now? That's question number one. And I mean, there's Yamamoto, Puljujarvi, right? Those guys have a little bit more NHL experience than anyone else I named. Bouchard, right? There's too many names that could possibly fill this roster. But then you've got Lucic, Sekera, Russell, Benning, Larson. I mean, that's the back end. You've got Koskinen in net, obviously we're fine with that. Well, we're going to have to be, I guess. You've got Kazian, you've got Brodziak, you've got guys filling out Lucic, you've got all around this roster guys filling out Sam Gagner, right? Colby Cave. So a lot of this roster, unless you get a pro guy who can come in and do the job to clear out all these contracts, clear up cap space, bring up 3 young guys, and bring up a new talent generation of the Oilers while also bringing in pros who can lead them to the playoffs, obviously you're not going to get very far next year if you don't do that. But that's the thing, right? You need a pro guy, but is a pro guy going to use the rookies? Probably not, but that's where you hopefully retain Keith Gretzky to do that job. Or what do? And all in this mess, I can sit here and go back and forth against myself a million times and look like a clown. You've got Keith Gretzky. Don't kid yourself. Keith Gretzky is just as great of a candidate as a guy like Mark Hunter or Kelly McCrimmon are. So to sit here and say that we're looking at one or the other, or maybe 3 or 4 candidates, and to sit here and cast aside what Keith Gretzky is as a hockey man and a guy who's both pro and amateur at this point of his career, guys, that would be huge to keep him on. Now, yes, I've said it, you've said it, media's said it. It's all the same mentality. The old boys mentality, old boys club mentality, because of the last name. And a lot of casual fans that are on the hook with the old boys club mentality will shy away and be scared of the fact that Keith is a Gretzky. So to sit here, guys, it goes back to that May 1st deadline. I really think that needs to be artificial manufactured. Just Darren Dreger throwing something out there to bone to the Oilers fans who have been waiting for this saga to come to an end, because May 30th seems like a lot better of a deadline. You allow Keith Gretzky to ride into the sunset of the offseason kind of before the busy time. in the quiet period and just kind of let him go back to his regular role in the organization. You talk to Kelly McCrimmon. You make a choice between whether it be Mark Hunter McCrimmon or whoever 3 and 4 candidates other guys are, and you get it done. Obviously, I don't know. I don't know which way the Oilers go, but Bob Nicholson better get this right. That's all I care. Guys, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I will catch you, as always, in the next one.